In 1930, the Republican-controlled House of Representatives, in an effort to alleviate the effects of anyone.
We've all seen that person that knows it all. You know that guy that knows everything? Well, that's not what you're getting here. I'm a know-nothing kind of guy, just trying to broaden my horizons. Join me on my journey of Scotty Doesn't Know. Hey, you know-it-alls. Long time, no see. This is Scotty, and Scotty Doesn't Know. And my guest today is my good friend, Dan Buckley. How's it going, Dan?
Not too bad with you.
I am good. So today, to get things back in the speed of things, you're one of the handiest guys I know. And yeah, you got cool hobbies. And one of your cool hobbies is you like to 3D print, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Oh, is it 3D printing, or is it you're almost in that caliber of being a maker?
Yeah, I think so.
Right. You see that term on the internet, right? Because I mean, you've got the ability to print.
Mm-hmm.
You got a pretty good grasp on your carpentry skills. You got a pretty good grasp on your metalworking skills. So you could bring a whole bunch of different mediums.
Oh, I can hurt myself a bunch of different ways. Yeah.
It's funny how that works. Yeah. And as I say, you've been doing this how long now?
The making and 3D printing.
Well, even when did you find that you were do you call it a hobbyist, or when did you start making cool shit?
The stuff that people are seeing now was probably about 5 years ago.
Right.
I was working a night shift in my main job, and meant that I wasn't seeing my wife and kids through the day, but I would wake up at 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
Didn't have to leave until 3. So I had 5 hours of sitting around doing nothing. And so it was like, I see all these guys doing fun stuff on YouTube. I'm pretty sure I can figure out how to do that.
Right.
So just made myself a thing, and my wife thought it was pretty neat. And I made another thing and showed some guys at work. And
right.
That Christmas, I got a 3D printer.
There you go. And I mean, too, as the years have progressed, and we were just talking about that, that entry to cost. I mean, like if you think 5 years ago, what a 3D printer was costing you, how much?
The first one I got was a Monoprice Mini, and it was a Christmas gift. But when I looked it up, it was, Christmas gift. It was about $180
right.
at the time, and could print about 4.5 by 4.5 by 4.5. So about the size of a softball.
Right. And then as you've progressed, because now, how many would you say from your starting to where you are now, how many units have you had?
How many printers have I had? Is it bad to say I have 5 currently?
No, man, there's a guy on YouTube that's like printing right. There's a guy on YouTube. I wish I would have had his name for the interview, but right. He's printing Iron Man suits, and he's doing it obviously in segmented pieces. And then he's creating larger pieces by gluing them together or fusing them together. And in his workshop, I mean, I tell you, he has 10.
Oh yeah. They're what they call print farms.
Yeah.
And there are guys that have Etsy shops.
Yes.
They buy the models or create the models themselves.
Yeah.
And they just run those things.
It's a business.
Oh yeah.
And then all of a sudden
you can one at that.
And then you can justify.
Yeah. Having
honey, I need 10 units. It's for the business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's keeping the lights on, baby.
It is. It's also, I can only as always. So all of a sudden you're doing these bigger and bigger prints. This is going to be all over the place too. But so you're having print times of hours or days.
Yeah. The first project I did was I found a bust of the T-800 skull from Terminator.
Yep.
And didn't know anything about print settings. I had a brand new spool of filament. I threw that in, got it all set up, said print, and it said, 27 hours.
Right.
And we're talking a very small,
right?
like softball
again,
sized thing.
back in the day, I assume everything's gotten more efficient and faster, and as you've increased your quality of tools.
Yeah, this was more just a whoops on my part.
Right.
There's because it's plastic, it's basically printing an eggshell, a hollow object.
Yep.
And they have another lattice inside of
Yeah,
it called
substructure,
infill,
right?
and that stops it from caving in on itself when you pick it up.
Right.
And I had that set way too high. And
so you almost printed a solid.
I almost printed a solid bust. So this thing took up most of my roll of filament, and so it's a $30 free bust off the internet. But it finished okay. It worked out all right.
I mean, it's all learning too, because I think that's you watch any video now, and they're like, oh, and you check your settings, and you can put in some supports. They always talk. There's guys that are always like, oh, add more supports. You can't go wrong with too many supports.
Yeah, you can.
But yeah, they just make more spots for you to clean, right?
Oh yeah. And I mean, depending on the alignment of the object you're printing, like a helmet, if you print it the way you would put it on your head, the whole inside of the top of the helmet needs to be supported. Otherwise, you're trying to print into open space, and it just turns into a bowl of spaghetti. And so that whole infrastructure to hold that just one layer, that's eating filament the whole time.
Yeah.
So I've actually had it where it was, 60% or 70% was just support material that has no purpose other than that. So when the print is done, you snap it off and you yoink it into the garbage. And it's like, well, that was, 75 cents for the thing that I made and $2 for the thing that I threw out. And so, it's, you get around.
You figure it out quickly. Figure
if I turn it over and print it like a bowl, there's much less support.
Right.
I'm only running the support that far to get the outside of the bottom of the top of the helmet. And then all the rest of it is material. So I end up with 30 cents versus $2.
There you go. Electricity. Mm-hmm. So you're doing these 27-hour prints. Did you ever figure out your kilowatt of usage, or is it minuscule? Is
it's about, well, it is much more than running a household computer.
Right.
It's the similar kind of power supply, but I've never actually put like a kilowatt on it to figure it out. But I understand that I'm running a heated bed to help everything stick down, and I'm running a heated extruder or hot end to make sure that the plastic is soft enough to print. So it's probably not cheap.
Right.
We do enough. Almost every bulb in my house is LED.
Yeah. You've kind of converted. Everything's that. Yeah. And I mean, ideally too, if you're printing overnight, that's when you're paying the least amount of money for hydro, all that good stuff. It's those afternoon prints that get you.
Yeah. the 8-day prints. Those suck. Because that's 8 days of stress.
Right.
You just, I hope this doesn't fail while I'm at work.
What if the power goes off?
The big one that I use has auto resume.
Right.
So if it goes off, it knows, okay, when the power comes back on, ask if I want to continue, and it'll bring everything back up and just resume from where it was.
That's cool.
Hopefully. Yeah.
And I mean, I'm sure that's like, right, as they figure this stuff out, they're like, that would be a cool feature to, in version 2 or version 3 of this, let's do this, because it's something people have been asking for. And I assume big groups, big Reddits, lots of people with ideas, lots of people with suggestions out there. It's an active community.
Yes, it's a very, very active community. I mean, you can find the main 3D printing thread on Reddit, and it's got probably tens or hundreds of thousands of members.
Right.
And then you can get down into specific groups dealing with one printer over another, or a brand over another.
Right.
And, there's always somebody with, I've got a new profile. this will make it print that little bit better,
right,
more efficiently.
Somebody that's willing to play around with settings.
Yeah. I'm not that guy. If it prints well, I'm good.
Right. So we'll talk a little bit more about printers here. See how this goes. So that is one of you, that model there that we've got up on the website.
Mhm.
Sort of one of your first ones.
It was actually my second.
So that's your typical. You put the spool on the side. It pushes it and prints from the bottom up.
Yes. It's called a gantry system. So the vertical A-frame that you see there, or well, not A-frame.
It looks like an A-frame to me.
It's A.
Yeah. I'll take that description.
That moves up and down on the Z plane.
Yep.
And the build deck where the elk
Sure
is, that moves X or
okay. So they both go.
Yeah.
Interesting.
The hot end moves back and forth along the horizontal bar. So that's your X axis. The plate moves on the Y and the gantry moves on the Z.
You see, that makes totally sense when I look at it there, and I can see that how it would do that. But, before I looked at that picture, I assumed the extruder was doing both. But no.
Yeah, each one is different, and they're much smarter people at the design.
Oh, right. 100. Right. Exactly. That is, it's funny, right? So something like that would have a max height, I guess. The plate is the max size, right?
Yes, it's referred to as build volume.
Right.
So in that case, the build volume, it's always in metric. So I believe it's 235 mils on the X, 235 on the Y, and I believe 375 or 400 in the vertical. So about 10 by 10 by about 14.
Right. So as you say, with experience, would you say, are you building more pieces now, multi-pieced and fusing together versus doing it in one print?
It really kind of depends on what I'm doing. I've printed a Judge Dredd helmet, and that was all one piece. But like I said, the longer you're printing, the more stress there is for a failure in the print at some latter stage. I'm printing currently M41A1 pulse rifle from Aliens.
Yep.
And that's in 27 pieces. So that's 27 different.
So you're basically making yourself a model to build.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Which is, if you think back when we were kids and we were putting car models together and stuff, I mean, a lot of those kits, I don't know if those sprues would have been extruded or whether they would have been
injection mold.
They would have been injection mold, which I mean, you're just taking the mold away and doing the same thing almost, which, that's like when I did 40K. It was most of their stuff early on when they got out of metal, it was all injection, right? And then you clip it off the sprue and you clean the mold line and you clean where the sprue was. So I mean, guys have been rubbing plastic for years and years. And buffing and filling and
that's where I probably got started. I mean, one of my earliest making something kind of memories was my first glue together model kit. And my dad was very much of the, here, you're not doing that right kind of guy. So
I'm that guy.
Yeah.
I was that guy with my friends. I was probably that guy with my kids. I'm still that guy at work. I mean, then it's like conscientiously, I'm like, show me how you did that, Dan. And it's like, just I'm gonna stick my hands in my pockets and I'm not gonna touch it. And I'm like, but it's my toy. I would be the one that's, I've played with it. I know how to show you how to get the most out of this when I let you play with it.
Yep. Once I'm done learning you, then you can play with it. Then you'll really have some fun.
Yeah. But it's interesting, right? And then as you've progressed, because you can choose lots of colors, right? So every color in the rainbow. Now they're doing metallic, and now they're doing multi-colored. What's the coolest new filament that's out on the market?
Oh, geez.
Or the coolest one you're using.
The coolest one I'm using right now is one from a company called G-Tech, G-E-E-E Tech, T-E-C-H. So 3 E's in G. And they make a gold silk filament, they call it. It's a PLA. It's the same type of plastic as all the other ones, but it's printing perfectly out of my machine. So I've bought 5 spools of it in a row now. So
Yeah,
it's printing to the point where it almost I take it off the build plate, run my hand over it, all the support material falls off, and I can go straight to priming and paint.
right. Cool.
And so
It just a little less time, right?
yeah.
So, and then this one here that we've got brought up, the Elgu
Yep.
resin, right?
Yes.
Okay. So instead of extruding filament, it's you're printing out of a pool of resin in the bottom.
Yes, it's a UV reactive or ultraviolet light reactive resin.
Where have we come to? This is like science fiction.
Oh yeah, it's creepy to watch. I've seen a couple people have a little puddle of it, and they'll put an ultraviolet light on it and lift the paintbrush out, and rather than it dripping, it becomes a solid.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's even those pens that do that now. Yeah. It's crazy.
But yeah, that is. I wouldn't recommend that one for smaller children,
right?
Just because the toxicity of the resin, it's really bad for you to get it on your skin.
I see a lot of people on YouTube, like they've got gloves when they take it off, and then they've got they soak it in isopropyl alcohol to neutralize it.
Mm-hmm.
And then sometimes they're still putting it in a whatchamacallit?
Wash and cure station.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Generally, I'm using water soluble, vegetable based resin.
Yeah, the stations afterwards, right? Where it almost does both, right?
Yeah.
So you put it in, and it almost has like a cyclonic. Mm-hmm. It agitates it as well.
Yeah, it's got a magnet on a high speed motor at the bottom, and so your washing tub has a magnetic agitator, and so if you, depending on whether you've got water, like for my water-based stuff, or isopropyl for the more advanced resins, you turn it on to spin, and you hear it, and it spins up just like one of those magic stirring coffee mugs. And does that for a couple minutes to wash all the loose, gloopy stuff off of it, this non-cured. And then you take it out, let it air dry for a couple minutes. Then you put it back onto a little flat plate that again keys into that same motor. It runs at a much lower speed, and it turns on a bank of LED.
And you bake it one more time, kind of thing. To just
I mean, you could have, like, originally they would just wash it in a tub with gloves and full PPE, and then you take it outside and leave it in the sun. But there are some places that don't have sun all of the time.
We'll just push it forward, and it's one more thing we can sell you.
That's true.
It's cool. You can do a lot of different things, I would assume, with that medium versus the extruder.
Yes. You get orders of magnitude higher resolution.
Right.
The layer lines in the filament type, or FDM, the minimum layer height that I've ever been able to achieve is 0.1 of a millimeter. So 1/10 of a millimeter thick. And with the resin printers, you can get down to 0.01. So like really, really thin, to the point where you can't even
see it.
You can not with normal eyes under normal light.
What would you need to print like that fine? Or is it more of the buildup?
It's, well, if you were building, or I've seen people do the positives for resin not resin casting, but metal casting for rings and jewelry.
Right.
Back to your Warhammer stuff. If you
There's
want
tons of guys,
and you want to be able to see the chainmail, if you want it to look as good as it comes from is it Games Workshop?
Yep.
Then you
You're
have to
doing that.
crank that up. And,
Yep.
you know.
There's this huge thing now with the whole like 3D scanning, and I guess it's piracy. So this whole thing of piracy, and the Game Workshops charges too much for models and for what they are, and blah. And now I can do it myself. But I think too, in looking, there's enough companies now that are like, oh, we don't even have to worry about that. We're going to provide you as a collector plans or modeling, and here's our game system, and here are our models. You can print them off. You can buy, and you can print as many as you want, and you're just buying the file.
Right.
And yeah, so then it's like, if you have the rule set and you want to play with some cool necro squirrel army, and somebody's made it, you print it off and play with it, and you never take it to tournament play. But I mean, so much of it's homebrew and at home, and it just gives you options that, a company might never sink the money into doing that.
Right.
But
yeah, I mean, there are a lot of fans of Warhammer or any of the other paper and dice games that will reimagine the characters. So I know that I saw someone mentioning, I'm not an aficionado of the Warhammer.
Me neither. I sold out
to
do Magic again, and then I sold out to do this. So.
Fair enough. But there was a specific model that was fairly popular.
Discontinued,
and someone went back in, looked at their model, and decided, I think it should be this way instead of this way.
Yeah.
And I think it should
more
be
dynamic.
Yeah, more dynamic. So they reimagined the figure and then released it and sold a buttload of them.
Yeah.
And okay, yes, technically it was someone else's IP, but it wasn't, 3D scanned, and then, oh, there you go, I just sold you mine.
Yeah.
It's
a cloudy thing, right? And as you say,
technically it's still IP theft.
It is. Well, it's no different than, and doing this, the appreciation of Wes has had some, because he's done a little bit more of on Phantom Power, our top 10 rated songs on this and that, and you play a smidgen, you try to keep it under 10 or 15 seconds, and it's like, oh, I got a copyright strike.
Yeah. Whoops.
Yeah, and all of a sudden you're like, I guess I'm stripping the audio out of that one. But yeah, but if no one's there to police you, and you're not going anywhere, and you're just printing for yourself, or you're printing for your buddies, and you never put it anywhere and have a shop or an Etsy or whatever, man, they're never coming after you.
Right. And I think that was always sort of the plan, was that, as long as you're not trying to, I'm cutting Games Workshop out, I'm just going to recreate the entire Crusader line.
Yep.
And
yeah, because you've done some cool custom pieces, and you've had some requests and things like that. I get a request because eventually I'm going to get shit on my walls behind me, and I've got myself a multi-pass, which looks like
Lilu Dallas Multipass,
the one from the movie. So that's from Fifth Element, and I mean that's spot on. That's good, right?
Yep.
And as I say, when you look at it, it's I assume you printed it in metallic, or did you paint it metallic?
No, I painted it. It was just
gray
resin.
Just gray resin. And then you got the button painted, and then you did some cutting and pasting and got the picture on it, and I'm like, that's exactly what I was expecting. And I'm like, that's cool.
If you flash it up fast enough in front of the camera, it's enough for people to go, I want one of those.
Multipass. Yeah, it's awesome. And I'm like, I think too, that's always it, right? It's, to me, it's more than what I would ever want. Is it screen replica? Well, no. But I mean, it took you X amount of time, and from home, and with hobby style paint, and but it's like, I look at that and I puts a smile on my face and reminds me of a movie I like.
Yep.
And that's it. And it's funny, we were talking about that, and I'm not a collector of that sort of thing, right?
Mhm.
It's interesting because there I've got something else to put up the wall, and you were like, that doesn't make sense. And I'm like, oh, it doesn't need to make sense. I said it's an inside joke that I've got with, right? And it's like, oh, it's more the name of the character than that it's a Batman figure.
Okay.
So he'll be like the only poor action figure on the wall, and everybody will be like, you must really like that action figure.
Yeah, it just seemed like he's, for everybody watching, it's Azrael from Batman.
It is. And
Right.
ideally, when I played World of Warcraft,
Mhm.
my character name was Azrael.
Okay.
So that it's more that
Right.
than and then ideally that was probably from 40K, but it's hard to find a bust of a little 35 millimeter guy. But now, right?
I'll find it now.
I know a guy that knows a guy that probably can find it, and so yeah, I could use them as bookends, right? My two favorite Azraels, but yeah, but that was it, and it's like, and I always knew there was a Batman character that was Azrael, and it's like, oh, it's not my end of things, but I like the fact that his name is Azrael. It's more the name than the figure, so,
Right.
but it's a cool looking figure, so yeah, that never hurts. But yeah, it's the filling in of space and of hobby stuff, and you're like, me and Wes get into this conversation all the time, and it's like it's weighing that nerd quotient. It's like, oh, I like movies and I like comic books, and I like storylines and stuff like that, but I'm not a I'm not a collector.
Yeah.
It's
I don't
weird
know.
how everybody yeah
I don't know what the exact mechanism to make one decide, you know what, I want to make a Blade Runner blaster. I want to make the best, most accurate Han Solo blaster ever. You know,
and it's like it's when, and I think as it's progressed, here we'll pull up some of your projects. So that I'm going to assume, without knowing and looking at that, this is like going to test my is that a lighter?
It is.
So that's from
Are you testing your ability?
Yeah. I know. Oh, you should know. You printed it.
Absolutely know.
So it's a lighter, and it's a DC movie, Constantine.
Yes.
So I assume the lid opens.
It does.
Nice.
It's basically just a hollow form. You can actually put a full Zippo.
Oh, so it's like a hold. That's cool.
So I mean, you could get that ching that you would get from a Zippo lighter when you open it.
So knife. I'm gonna say Dune. Nope. All right.
This one was done for my wife, if that helps, like, at all.
So a big Firefly fan.
She is, but that's not from that.
Not that property. What property?
Supernatural.
Okay. So somebody stabbed somebody with it.
Yeah, that's the Castiel's Angel Blade from Supernatural.
Right.
And it was mostly just that it's always hard to get a convincing metal finish, and that was trying one of those mirror,
right, trying to get to a metallic, right? Yeah.
It's hard to get that full shine. You get silver and you get gray.
Right.
You're like metallic gray most of the time. That's usually what metallic looks like.
Right. Which, I mean, to me, I look at that and I go, that's metal. But as you say, it's just not that chrome, that steel, that blade. That's Victor Von Doom.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I'm actually working on a full cosplay of him being 6'6". I figured that should be imposing enough if I went to a con dressed in that.
Right. So belt, helmet, or mask, I guess you've got. Then you've got to do a cowl. And then he's got gauntlets, right?
Yes. Yeah, I'm a patron of Nico Industries.
Right.
And he is a 3D modeler down in California. He does some really incredible stuff, and he did an amalgamation of the Thanos's gauntlet, the Infinity Gauntlet, but all done with runes and Celtic stuff.
Cool.
From Asgard.
Right.
From the world of Thor. So I figured that's sort of I'm making my own version of
that.
Doctor Doom, so
Right.
I'm going to make these gauntlets really nice and detailed.
Cool.
And all that kind of stuff.
So Patreon, you throw him like a couple bucks every month.
Yeah, I think it's $13 a month,
and then you get access to.
He gives us a zip pack every month of between 8 and 10
That's
or
cool.
12 models,
Right.
and they're free to
right.
print and reproduce.
That's
at
cool.
At your whim.
It's funny too, because I feel like as you dive into this, and everyone seems to do a Patreon, and it's like, well, you know, other than supporting something that you love and allowing that person to continue to do it, it's like, oh, you know, to me, it's there's got to be a rub, right? So getting the files is cool,
right?
And then
like there are some people. My wife was a patron of a YouTuber, and she did commentaries on movies that she'd never seen before, and it's like, okay, but really?
Yeah.
Like that's it? That's all you get? You're just paying for this person's
but when you're
existence.
when you're an entertainer, and that's your product.
Yeah.
That's what you're right. So, you know, every Patreon patron gets to pick a movie, and I'll watch it and review it and whatever. Or, you know, some of them do like early access. So you get, instead of waiting like the peasants for Monday, you get the show on Sunday, or you get like the extended scene, or you get the extended thing. So yeah, it's interesting. Oh, look at that one. That is a multi-pass.
Lilu Dallas multi-pass.
Now, as I say, I feel like you printed that, you posted that. Now, if anyone wants to follow you, you do have a Facebook page, sort of. Now, is it more to the arcade? Is it your Kawartha Arcade, or did you just post that on your regular?
I believe I posted that on my personal page, but you know, Kawartha Arcade Machines is
your other side hustle.
My other side hustle. So. I don't know. My fun paying hobby. I don't like hustle. It makes it sound shady to me.
It is. It totally is. It's funny. Everyone's like, it's like, oh, I wonder if it's a hustle because you're doing it on the side from your day job. Back in the days when you couldn't tell your employer that you had another job, so it was a hustle. Yeah. Your fun hobby that occasionally puts money in your pocket.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's funny. You posted that, and then I think you got I want one of those too. Now, was that your wife?
Yeah.
Commented on your link that, by the way, Dan,
you're printing a second one.
Printing a second one.
Well, good thing the file's still in the computer.
Yeah.
I know how to do it now.
But that was I like it's that, right? And as soon as you put it out, it's interesting, the people that see it and go, oh, I like that. And this is interesting, right? So it's a bottom of an Oni mask,
right?
But you did that early on in the lockdown.
Yep.
Because you were an essential worker, so you continue to work, and you wore that over your everyday boring mask,
medical mask,
and made it a little more exciting.
Yeah, I got a lot of comments and strange looks at first when I showed up on the job site with that. I didn't wear it many times. I think I actually only wore it for the one full day.
Right.
Because I'm working construction, and
you're up, you're down, you're moving.
Yeah, and the last thing you want to do is print it and it painted up nicely. And so the last thing I want to do is accidentally turn my face too fast and crack it open, or
ding it, or all those things that happen to nice things, right?
Yeah.
It's like I took a tile. We ordered some tile for our basement, and I laughed because I took one out and I set it down and it fell, and I crunched the corner.
Whoops. Like, I guess that's going in some,
that's going to be a
hidden spot.
That'll be a trim piece for sure. But it's, as you say, you print this stuff, and then it's like, man, never take it anywhere, never use it anywhere, because it's like, I don't want to wreck it. I don't want to, I don't want to have to repaint it. I don't want to touch it up.
I mean,
Now, was it from any IP or was it just you like the idea of an Oni mask and you pulled that file?
actually, coincidentally, it happened to be around the same time that Cyberpunk came out.
Yes.
And it's got a very strong
Right.
Japanese
Yep.
influence to it. I believe Johnny Silverhand's band was called Samurai. So
Right.
I was seeing that.
Did you play it?
I did.
Did they fix it?
Yeah.
They patched
honestly,
it up?
I was playing it on the Series S and I didn't have any issue
No, it had
until
a lot.
much, much later in the game.
It got roasted.
Oh, yeah.
Again, this is the same thing, right? Being a fan, I mean, I know people are anxious, but I feel like there was so much pressure because they're saying, oh, you know, here's a beta, here's a this, here's a that. And they were so excited as fans for the release. I think they released it early
Yes.
or before they felt they were ready to.
Yeah.
And then they get roasted by the fans that told them to release it, that it was buggy and incomplete.
Yeah. I mean,
Hypocrites.
well, they released the original announcement trailer about 10 years ago. And they showed one set of things and you're like, wow, that looks really incredible. I really want to play that.
Yeah.
And then years go by and they release a totally different trailer. It looks like a completely different thing. The world looks the same, but none of the character that you saw in the first one is in the second one. And you're like, okay, that seems a little weird. And then the game was pushed back and pushed back. And from what I understand, the money people at Project Red just said, that's it. It's coming out
right
on November 18th.
Whether
it's ready or not.
Yeah.
Because I guess the thing that I didn't know when it first came out was that it plays well on the Series S and X, but it's actually playing the Xbox One version of the game in emulation mode.
Yes.
So it's got super high spec hardware in the Series X and S, but it's playing the dumbed down version.
Yep.
And so when you tried to play the dumbed down version on even worse hardware, it just
I know,
just freaks right out.
And I mean, this is it too. And I think there's tons of people that don't understand that you see all these sneak peeks in these videos. I mean, that's not gameplay.
No.
That's like the Star Wars Eclipse.
Yep.
The new one. Man, it looks awesome.
That does look, that from what I've understood, that is done in Unreal 5. So that is the game engine.
Yes, but not gameplay.
No.
So, I mean, that's cinematic. That's been created to generate buzz.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, and you'll see, I guarantee you'll see that quality in cutscenes.
Mm-hmm.
And
because they've been able to do that for like 8 years.
But the idea that that's not going to be what you get.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's still people out there that struggle with that. What I'm seeing is not what I'm buying.
Right.
But yet another kind of fan versus that. It's interesting to me for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So somebody's jaw.
Again, it was mostly the most challenging thing for me for finishing is creating a realistic.
So that's like a brass patina, I assume.
Yeah. And that's again is just gray plastic PLA underneath.
Yep. And me looking at that, that's exactly, to me, that looks metallic. That looks like it's been done. Fools me.
No, there you go. That was what I was going for.
Right? Yeah.
That's actually sitting on the, from what I understand, on the front counter at Riverside Tattoos in Belleville.
Oh, very cool. Very cool.
It's their business card holder.
That makes sense. That's cool. Now let me say, he's above where the perfect purple rooster was, down by the bus stop, or is he in a house?
In Belleville?
Oh, is there not a Riverside skateboard and tattoo place in Peterborough?
There is, but this was
Belleville.
Chris told Jesse and Riverside Tattoos in Belleville.
Oh, isn't that funny? I automatically thought that of the guy in Peterborough, but
yeah,
that's cool.
When we went looking, because I helped them develop the web presence as well.
Right.
it was one of those ones. Well, Riverside Tattoo is already taken.
Yeah.
.com.ca. Like clearly there's at least 2 other shops.
Yeah.
So you might want to reconsider, but he's like, I've already got the shirts at the printer.
Yeah,
this is
tough,
what it's going to be.
And it's like, man, I mean, even playing around with this and, Sawcast Productions and hanging at the barbershop, and man, we Facebooked that, we Instagrammed that, we Googled that, we went on to Apple Music and Spotify, and like you search out all those names just to see how many other, just in case we like hit the algorithm and go viral. I want to make sure people are looking up the right people.
Right. And make sure the spelling is correct. So
Yeah.
Oh, I thought I was being smart.
Oh, there's a couple like that they're like, years ago, he was a landscaper and he spelt something different. And he's like, oh, I like the play. I'm like, you like the play on incorrect spelling? And I never quite got what he was selling, but yeah, I'm like, or did you get the business cards made and then you're like, I got to come up with a story?
Yeah, that'd be rough. Whoops!
Yeah.
I got the EI wrong.
Yeah.
Oh, I did that on purpose.
Yeah. Because it's never I before E with me.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's interesting. But yeah, as you say, so much out there, and there's so much more presence in a digital media that, yeah, you got to play your cards right and see how it goes. But I mean, right, I bet if you search Riverside / Belleville or use my location, he's the first one on the top of the list.
Probably, yeah.
So I mean, my phone, I'm sure my phone, every time I do a search for something business wise, it asks to use my location. So it is what it is. And that is, I think, too, I don't know if I would recognize that outside of, but that's the blaster from Blade Runner.
Nope.
No. Okay. Then I don't know.
Okay. That's the small blaster that they used in Babylon 5.
Okay. I know Babylon 5. I would not have been able to peg that as that blaster.
Yeah, they didn't use blasters a whole lot. They used the Gunstar or whatever, the gunship that they launched out into space. That they used quite a bit, but they didn't.
There wasn't a whole lot of, there's lots of space battle.
Yeah.
But not a lot of
proportionally, I suppose.
Yeah. So that was our blaster from Babylon 5. And then this is sort of showing what it's coming off of the extruder, right? Yes. So
that's the Oni mask.
Okay.
And you can see all the support coming off.
Right.
The build surface to hold those unsupported sections.
Right. Because it almost is like, I'm not sure what that is.
Yeah, believe me, there are some days when I'm looking at it and it's created a whole lattice of support and I don't even see what it is I'm printing.
Right.
At first. And then I'm like, oh, I think that's a piece that I'm keeping.
And there it is, unpainted.
Right. You can actually see on this that the tips of the downward pointing fangs have snapped off. So I ended up having to go back into the support material, find out where they were, because a little bit of layer shift.
Yep.
And I mean, you're dealing with the hot end is skipping around to a bunch of different places.
Yes.
So it's not always putting hot material on hot material so that it grips really well. Sometimes it's been 2 or 3 minutes since that had anything put on it, and then it doesn't grab particularly well. So you end up with those little failures like that. So that's where crazy glue and zip kicker.
So you basically took the tip off. You go back through the garbage or your pile of supports, find it, nip it off, and super glue.
And then Bondo and Sculpey. And,
right. Yeah. What was the other thing you said? You said super glue.
Zip kicker.
And what's it?
It's a fast activator.
Okay.
Adam Savage from Mythbusters.
Yes.
One of the
founders
gods of makers.
Yes.
Was one of those people that turned me on to a whole bunch of tricks, and it's some weird smelling chemical that you spray onto one part And then the minute you touch them together, it's instantly kicked off.
You know, it's funny. I'm getting some stuff done around the house, and my carpenter friend, he's like, "Oh," and I'm like, "What? What?" He's doing the window boxes, and you know, when I did the window boxes, I just cut them, made them into squares, and then tried to have it square and put my nails in and all this stuff. And he's putting this stuff on, and then he's spraying it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's. And I was like, "What is that?" He's like, "Oh, it's miter something glue."
Mm-hmm.
So you put the glue on like normal,
mm-hmm.
and then you've got your cut, and then you spray it and you put it, and it's almost instant bond. So then instead of having a box that's all weeble wobbly while you're trying to put your, if you didn't have clamps or
Mm-hmm.
a true do it at home guy like myself, it's like, got my knee and my gun, and I hope
I'm right there, buddy.
Yeah, I hope it's still square. And he's like, "Oh man," he says, "you do a small enough box, this stuff will actually like hold it true and square." And it's exactly that. It's a 2-part. You set the glue down, you spray it, and then it's almost. He says you got to be prepped and ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
But he says it's so much easier, and he says, you know, it does great work on wood and plywood, but he says where it shines is MDF.
Yeah, nice smooth.
Because it soaks in more, and and the MDF being, I guess, paper based or whatever you want to say, or he says it's like instant, and it's it's strong. You couldn't shake it loose once it's set.
Yeah,
I'm like, how would a guy like me ever have known that? And he's like, you wouldn't, unless you were looking at like 100 videos of guys and somebody pulled it out and be like, here's my pro tip. I use miter glue fast set 25. As you said, but this is it. You've got as much as you're like, oh man, I like making stuff and I do all this cool stuff. You still have to commit time to watch other people.
Oh yeah.
To improve your craft.
Yes, absolutely.
And it's like, it's funny because Michelle's like, she laughs because God bless, I'm not watching videos of watching other people play video games. I think that's her biggest. Like, what are those people doing? I'm like, oh, they're watching this guy beat this boss on Elden Ring. And she's like, why aren't they playing Elden Ring? And I'm like, well, they probably do, but they're probably stuck. So they went and this guy can beat him. So they're looking for hints and tips on how to do it. And then they'll watch him and how he does it.
Right.
And she's like, no.
It's sort of like watching someone watch a cooking show.
Yep.
It's like, why are you could be cooking.
Yeah.
Or you could be watching someone cook.
Yep.
But now you're watching someone watch someone cook. Like, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. I used to have major complaints when my son used to watch people react to Twitch videos. It's like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Just,
but I mean, in some ways, I find it entertaining because then you're getting their honest, first view, never seen, and you watch them watching it, and you're like, now, did you go and watch the video first and have your own genuine reaction, and then you're curious how everyone else's reaction is, so then you went and watched it?
Yeah. I think for me, it would be more reacting. This is a thing that I like, and I see people are reacting to the thing that I like. Do they find it as rewarding as I do, or are they just going, this guy's a loser?
So Deadeye.
Deathstroke.
Will Smith played him in Suicide Squad.
That was Deadshot.
Oh dear Lord.
Yeah, it was a bit of an oversight on DC's part to have Deadshot and Deathstroke so close to the same name in the same universe. But this was actually, I want to say that's 8 pieces.
Right.
You can actually see the seam right around the jawline.
Yep.
And one up in the forehead.
Yep.
And that's part of, finishing it. This is probably the 3rd coat of Bondo and glazing compound.
Because you got to be careful that you don't fill in too much detail, right?
Right.
And that's the finished.
That's the finished product. You can still see a little bit of the hint in the one in the mouth, but
Well, it's funny too, though, right? It's interesting because, as you say, if there was a physical vertical joint down the middle, the paint job
does a pretty
makes it
great
a
job.
very forgiving cover up, right?
Yeah, very easy to visually hide it.
And you know what? And here's the kid, right? You're doing it as a hobby. You're doing it as something you enjoy.
Mhm. And it's most of the time from my collection.
Yeah, and it's based on your skill set.
Mhm.
It's like anyone that's like, right, you're looking at these and you're like, oh, I can see that, and if you would have just done this or done that, and it's like, well, shit or get off the pot.
Mhm.
Go buy yourself a
printer.
printer.
Yep.
And see how many things you waste and ruin, and then go and get and try to do a finish, and let's see your work. Come join the community and post your stuff and show us what you do, and be prepared for the critiques.
Oh yeah,
and the comments. And
yeah,
it's like,
that's the wrong shade of orange. It actually fades from a red to an orange. It's sort of color shifty, and it should be that blue, depending on what version of Deathstroke you're using. It should be,
man.
It should be sort of a titanium blue
Right.
or a burnt metal blue.
I'm a new 52 guy, and this is what he looks in new 52. So anything before that, not my cup of tea.
Jam.
Yeah. So is this the Blade Runner?
The Blade Runner blaster, yes.
Nice.
But that shows that was printed off 2 different machines in two different materials.
Now, on purpose, or that's just what you had in those machines when you printed?
I was trying to get it done quickly. And so I wanted, because I have a tendency to 80% a bunch of jobs, meaning I start something.
High five, Dan.
I start something and then I'm like, yeah, I'll get back to that next weekend because I'm all out of time this weekend.
Yep.
And then 2-3 years goes by. Ask my wife about the bathroom wall upstairs. It's been 11 years waiting for me to sand it.
21 years in this house. 21. Moved in when Ethan was born. We built it, and then it's funny too, because when you build or whatever you're doing, and right, money gets tight or time gets tight or life gets busy, and you're just like, I'm happy with this. I can live like this. I don't need ceiling. I don't need finished carpentry. I don't need light switches. It's like, right,
you just pinch those 2 wires together and the lights come on. How bad could it be?
Yeah, just sometimes I get excited. It's like, right, whoa, I like the shot.
Yep. The toilet flushes and the door closes.
Yeah,
that's good enough for me.
And it's that thing. And as they say, we've been fortunate enough, right, as we've progressed and we've done little projects ourselves, and I'm not a detail oriented or a real finish guy, so some things are like, oh yeah, I did that and it's okay. So we had the opportunity that this year our mortgage was due, so we've leveraged the mortgage a little bit, and I tell you, nothing funner because the money's there.
Yep.
It's got to be spent. Nothing funner than going shopping and calling in trades guys and getting quotes and paying bills.
Do they actually call you back? I'm a trades guy.
I've done all right.
Okay, you're lucky.
Yeah, I was a long time finding I want to change the whole sump pump system, because basically it's a hole in the basement with 2 $70 column pipe pumps from Home Hardware. Just where we are, we consistently get water. You may or may not hear them cutting on air a couple times when we've recorded, and that's almost, I probably am only dry in the pit like a month or 2 a year, and other than that, I'm pretty active in the spring. I can be active in the winter. It was cold this winter. I had the line freeze, which pissed me off, so I was out with a kettle of water pouring it down the line. And then you go, well, I'll use a shorter line. Well, that just puts the water closer to the house, and I feel like it just trickles back in. I'm not getting it away from the house. As with everybody, I'm sure everybody has shitty outage stories about power and stuff, but I tell you, when you're filling up a liter a minute in your basement and the power goes out, and you don't
You're
have
not
battery
going to
back,
sleep that night.
you get super nervous. That was I went to Wes's that night, so I did probably 20 or 30 buckets, and thank God I have a young, robust son that wasn't doing anything that night, and I left him at home here on bucket duty, and I went to Wes's, and man, I was very responsible. I'm just having sips of beer, super relaxed. And I tell you, when that power came back on, fuck, did I get drunk? Like,
Woo, I'm not gonna lose the house.
Yeah. And probably that was one of the worst hangovers I've had in the last 15 years.
Oh God. Did you end up with a puppy though?
No, I was not quite that drunk. Yeah, you got that. I mean, right? Funny things happen at Wes's place.
I know.
I'm excited for this year. Right? Things will be back to normal. Like we had a great. It's always funny too. That first year, other than poor Kelly, and I mean that's her story to tell one day. But she got a little under the weather before the night was through. But I mean, we had so much like that first inaugural go to Wes's on the long weekend in August. I guess it's not a long weekend, but whatever. We made it long.
It was bank holiday.
Yeah. Oh, bank holiday, I guess. Yeah.
There's civic long weekend.
Yeah.
August 1st, whatever.
Yeah. And man, we drank and we pooled. The weather was perfect. We went down to Midnight Madness. I had a little dance party by myself. It was good.
Looked great.
Sure it does. And apparently the video is corrupted and it'll never hit the internet. So
no,
you've got a copy? You should send me a copy.
Oh, I totally will.
Because Wes's copy is not in good shape.
Oh.
And then the next year it was like, right, I think Kelly went a little slower, kind of changed the vibe. So
my wife set the yardstick.
Maybe
that's the distance marker.
Maybe.
Yeah,
and I
bring
feel
it back from Kelly about 10 feet.
And I feel like the walk downtown wasn't quite as exciting, and it's hard to reach that excitement when it was it was new. And then I think last year with the pandemic, and then it rained and it was cold and we were in the garage and it was like it's just a little more subdued, right? So I'm excited for this year.
Yes,
because it's going to be back to no social distancing, no masks. We'll be able to go downtown. I'm sure they're going to do Midnight Madness. I'm hoping for nice weather. It's just that I'm like I am ready to cut loose.
Yeah, I'm ready to step out.
Yeah,
be drunk, be seen.
Yeah. But yeah, as I say, you went to that and you were convinced that it went from I'm not taking home a puppy to hey, we'll take that one.
Yep. And the thing was that it changed too, because there was a little black puppy that I was just that's the one.
Right.
That's mine right there. And yeah, we veered hard right.
And you took a fuzzy brown one.
Yeah, took Chewy.
Yeah.
And he's been quite the little mittful ever since.
I mean, I think dogs as whole, right? I mean, they're their own person and personality. So it's so, and that litter was all over the place.
Oh yeah.
Because you got the one that Wes kept, Bob.
Bob.
Yep. Shaky Bob. He still looks like a Chihuahua.
And
I mean, yours has it's long haired. And it's it's got little pointer ears, and I don't even know what he looks like.
We've been told Pomeranian.
Oh, there you go.
So
yeah, but yeah, and as I say, right, I don't even remember what the dad looked like. I think he was somewhat small and black, and I think he was the kind with the curly tail. Doesn't matter. But yeah, there was a bit of off.
Diverged a little bit.
Yeah. But yeah, so I mean, at the end of the day, entry level to start something like this, there's printers that are hundreds of dollars. There's, I assume, printers that are mid-range, like 5 to 6, and then there's there's high end.
There are several makers or manufacturers that make everything from $100, can do something, coasters and little mini engravers and stuff about that big, to things that can print a full helmet or chest rig.
And you said you also have something on order.
Yeah, I got behind a Kickstarter from Elegoo,
Yes, for the next one.
for the big resin printer.
Right.
And so it, I believe, prints 12 by 8-inch by 16.
And is that the kicker? Is that the buy-in is because you want to be bigger and more complex? Is that the simplicity of it? Is the upgrade is
It's-
to
it's
do
More just build volume, right?
Right.
Like if I wanted to print nothing but keychains and rings
Yeah,
and,
you'd never
and
have-
Warhammer
right.
figures,
Yes.
then yeah, I only need something that can print that big.
Yep.
Right, like 4-inch diameter. That's
But
tons for me.
you've got lofty ideas, so you need a lofty printer.
Right. I mean, I've been sitting on the plans for a Colonial Viper pilot helmet from
Okay.
the original Battlestar Galactica.
Right.
Always loved that helmet.
Yep.
I just want one for my collection.
Yep.
But it's about 14 inches, wide,
Yeah.
and it's about 10 inches or 12 inches high. And again, probably 10 inches deep,
Right.
which none of those numbers will sit
On anything.
on my build plate currently. And so the last thing I want to do is cut it, because then you end up with these hanging out parts and more support is needed and more chance for failure.
Right.
So the bigger I can get, the more likely I'll be able to print that helmet or print RoboCop's gun in one shot.
Right. Right. The complexity and the ability to do stuff that you're wanting to do comes with that.
And resin printing tends to be a whole lot cleaner right out of the gate, a lot less material. And you're literally, when the print is done, you can wash it off, cure it, and be sanding it and painting it in about 20 minutes.
As you see the hobby or the tech increasing, do you think you'll see resin take over 90% of the market and no one even worry about? Or do you still think at that price point for that smaller stuff, there's still a need to use an extruder?
I think that for me anyways, if they find a way to make even more recyclable material, like the filament to be either made of,
right,
and it may well be, I'm not up
sure
on it,
sure
but if they make the filament itself out of recycled material, or they make it that you can chop it up,
I think that would be super cool, that if you could reuse your bad prints and somehow get a little grinder and then a melter that would re-extrude it.
They have the machines, they just don't do it well. They don't do it consistently.
Right.
And this stuff is, judging by the 1/10 of a millimeter in thickness, it's got to be fairly
it'll
high
get,
tolerance.
but it'll get there.
It'll get there eventually.
Yeah.
I think that the resin stuff is a little too toxic, a little too just not the best stuff to be working with. There's other mediums that they use in industrial.
Yeah.
And it's more of like a fine powder.
Right.
And it's laser cured. It does it much
so
better
that push
job.
down will eventually come where that becomes not cost inhibitive to do it at home. And so, I mean, that's all this technology, right? Is as it gets simplified and there's more people buying it and they're like, oh, we could actually do this for home use.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And everything that starts industrial will work its way down to the consumer eventually.
Yeah.
So I think that would be safer for children and young people coming up. Like, I definitely wouldn't recommend giving your child, your 8-year-old, a resin printer, because they're going to end up with all kinds of chemical burns and chemical sensitivities down the line from doing these things.
My Lord, there's a ton. Right, there's way more sensitivities to everything nowadays.
Right.
So
absolutely.
I can only imagine. I can only imagine. Right.
Yeah. I mean, I've done enough damage to my body with chemicals in my normal line of work that that I'm not super sensitive at work.
Yep.
But when I watch all the videos on printing with resin, and they're like, oh, be sure to wear your gloves, be sure to clean up, be sure to, all these extra precautions. It's like,
Oh,
Okay, maybe this one will be the one that gets me, so I
Yeah.
will wear my gloves.
right.
I will take my
yeah.
extra,
Because at the end of
extra
the day, right?
second.
You never want to, create issues
create or
because you're just doing it for fun.
contribute to my own demise through
Right.
my hobby. That's a great idea.
Yeah. Something's gonna get you. It might as well be
Yeah.
you, right?
Yeah. Everybody got to die of something.
So we're almost done. What would from your experience for telling somebody that wants to get into it and kind of those few things, like what would be sort of your 3 pro tips of going in, whether it be research or whether it be, start small, or, what would be like 3 tips you'd tell somebody that's watching this that's interested enough to doing it to get started?
I would check out a couple of different YouTube channels. Uncle Jesse on YouTube, Tested with Adam Savage. I would say Nico Industries if you want to get into looking at models and seeing what can be done. And this is just a guy in a garage,
Right.
and he's doing the modeling. If you want to get more into the nuts and bolts of it, Thomas Sandlander, it's Swedish.
Right.
I know the guy to see him, but I
Yep.
can't pronounce his last name. They're very good. Basically look up anybody, 3D printing nerd, 3D printing professor. They're all really good and have very good introduction videos about
Like,
3D
the
printing.
whole tutorial kind of thing.
Yeah.
Cool.
I wouldn't necessarily recommend just going on AliExpress or Amazon and buying the cheapest one you can find. Learn which manufacturers are good, which ones, are a little less reputable, because unfortunately a lot of these machines are made in China. The quality control is not so good on the knockoff of a knockoff of a knockoff. And so I like Elegoo, Anycubic, Creality. I'm sure there's another one that I'm forgetting. It's gone.
Yeah.
But those 4, if you get it from their specific online stores
Yep.
or their presence on Amazon, you're not likely to find a massive electrical short that's going to burn your house down. But there were concerns about ones that came out a couple of years ago where, they would just, the power supply would spontaneously combust. And, oh, well, good thing we had it out in the shed in the
Right.
backyard, because it's now a pile of ash.
Nice.
Um,
I mean, I think that's any consumer electronics, right?
yes. But again, these are made in,
Yep.
the developers, the guys who are doing all of the R&D, Elegoo, Creality, Anycubic, they're doing all the proper testing and getting all the CSA
Yep.
approvals and underwriter labs and all that kind of stuff. The other, it's Bob's Printer Warehouse
Yep.
on AliExpress. Not so much. It's
No.
probably got a sticker, but you can print a sticker off just about any 3D or off any common printer.
Yep.
And stick it on there. Yep. We passed all of our certifications too.
Yep.
Look at us. So be careful where you buy it. You can find them on Marketplace. The Ender 3, the Ender 3 Pro, the CR10S, like I use, are good high volume printers. Probably, well, most of the software is free to use. So it's easy to find, it's
Right.
easy to set up. You shouldn't run into too many problems. I would probably aim for an Ender 3 to start. They have a decent enough build volume that you're not going to immediately outgrow it, because that was sort of the reason that I ended up with the CR10.
Right.
I got that, the Monoprice Mini for Christmas. And by the time tax season came around in end of February, beginning of March, I was like, can I buy a bigger 3D
Right.
printer?
Yeah. So, I mean, right. You might as well get something that you can grow into.
Right. Because I mean, even the Blade Runner blaster, it had to be printed in parts because any part of that was going to be bigger than I could actually print on the little 4x4x4
Right.
printer that I had. So I needed something bigger where I can print a helmet and
Yeah.
it doesn't take me a month worth of
Yes.
little
Pieces.
10-hour jobs.
Interesting. And then just from because you're downloading most of these as files.
Yes.
Do you got a website that you enjoy that has high quality files that need little to no adjustments or?
Yes. Well, first off, you're going to need a slicer, which is the software program that turns it from a 3D object into a path for the hot end to print. I use Ultimaker Cura, Cura. If you search it online, you can find it. But for the files, Pinshape, Pinshape is a good one. Thingiverse is massive.
I've heard of that one. Yeah.
It's millions of different free models in most cases. And they'll have everything from little widgets to hold your cables,
Yep.
to helmets, to swords, to
Everything.
gun mounts, things for your GoPro,
Cool.
horns for your construction helmet, whatever.
Right. Yeah. There's somebody's out there 3D modeling it. It's on Thingiverse. Cool.
And I mean, everybody, the 3D modeling is really quite easy now, or getting easier.
Right.
The more people are using it. So, yeah, those two are most of the ones that I go to, along with Patreon. If you can find a developer that you like or a 3D modeler that you like, the more people get into it, the better it is for everybody, because the more things will become available.
Yep. Well, cool. I really do appreciate your time here and talking about something I have very little knowing of. And it's, as I say, it's such a cool hobby, and it's just, it's like just the knickknacks and the little things that, you think about and be like, oh, that would be cool if I had that. And it's like, oh man, I know a guy that can do stuff like that. And it's like, as you say, from the simplicity of a clip, because the clip makes something easier in your life, or a holder, and just the cool stuff that you can get to just decorate your wall. It's a fascinating hobby, and as I say, it lets you flex your creativity, which I think is always good in this day and age. There's so many people that are just lumps on a log, right?
Yeah, I just way too much of a fidget. I just can't sit still.
Yeah. It's good, man.
I'm forever sitting on the couch going, okay, this is the third show of this. I could be out in my shed making something or building something.
Yeah.
and
I can watch another show.
So could my wife.
Yeah.
But yeah, everybody's different. I'm sure some part of it is ADHD or
yeah, it's all in how you treat your home time and your shutdown time, and what you, as you say, how you can value that time on the couch to watch another show or another episode versus be like, I could be getting something cool made or done, or and it's a cool hobby because you can kind of set up and then you can walk away from it.
Yeah, and being that it's a hobby, not my business at this point, still makes it fun. So I value my time in my shed or 3D modeling. It's not I have to go and do that thing.
Right. Yeah. Because as soon as it's paying a bill or it's got bills to be paid for it does change it. But I mean, they always say, like, right, if you're looking for something, find something you love to do, and it's never a job, right? So it's always neat if you ever kind of get to that point where you start making consistent dollars. It's like, oh, you know what, I do enjoy doing it, and it's cool that you can. There's people out there doing that, and that it's something that you can do from you don't need a office space. You can do it out of a shed. You can do it out of a garage. You can do it out of,
even if your basement is heated and relatively temperature stable, you could just put a table downstairs with 2 or 3 printers and
away you go.
Yeah. And
and accessible, right? And as we said, the cost to entry, as soon as, and as I think early on we were saying, you're like, oh, it's a few $100s. And I'm like, well, once you have adult money or have extra adult money, let's be honest.
Yep.
If bills and everything's taken care of, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, well, you know what? All of a sudden I have an extra couple $100 every month that you can tag for something enjoyable.
Yeah.
I
mean, you could travel except COVID.
Yeah,
so
well, that
money for vacation can go into a really nice printer now.
Yeah, exactly. It's cool. It's something cool to think about, and as I say, maybe my wife will not see it as another thing. Maybe if I make her cool shit, she'll be on board.
Good luck with that.
Yeah. Anyway, I'll let you. We'll end it here. And again, thank you very much.
Oh, my pleasure.
And if you like Dan today, we'll have him on again an episode of Hanging Out the Barbershop, where I think we're gonna have Wes in, and we're just gonna kind of do a catch up and a buddy chat. And as always, right? Don't hesitate to leave a comment or give us a nod. And if you want to have any questions about 3D printing, man, fire away. And we're happy to throw those questions to Dan or have him back on for another episode. So thanks for being a great guest.
Thank you.
All right.
Hey, thanks for joining us on Scotty's Journey. Don't forget to like and follow us on Facebook and Instagram. And join us next time when Scotty tries to learn something new, because Scotty doesn't know. Scotty Doesn't Know is a Sawcast production.
I didn't put it on. Struggles, Dan. Would you believe me if I told you every other time I've used that damn camera, I've put it on airplane mode, but today?
It's fine. I was actually thinking, oh no, that's not me. That's not me.
No, and you know what? Sometimes it's fun to see a phone call, and then you just invite them in onto the podcast. We've done that before.
But, we've got a caller.
Yeah, 100%. I don't even know who that was, so we'll figure it out, I guess, when we're done. And of course, too, you sent me some other files, and then I didn't add them to the screen show. So it's a struggle of a day today, Dan.
We could pause for 2 seconds.
We could. We'll see how this goes.
That's what editing's for.
Yeah, he'll edit it out.
Well, you're committed now. You're up.
I'm up.
Fuck it. We're going live.
Oh.
Sorry, didn't mean to confuse you right in the middle of what you're doing.
Airplane mode.
Good idea.
And hard edit. He'll be like, oh my God, you just created so much work.
I have to import all of that first.
Right? I'm like, man. It's not like they were doing anything. It's like, man, I just sitting around waiting to do stuff. I'm like, yeah, you were. Or he'll be like, oh, come over and I'll give you a lesson on how to edit. And I'll be like, I don't want a lesson. I just want to be the voice talent. Oh,
basically.
No big thoughts. No big thoughts. Hey.
Technical difficulty.
Maybe. I'm sure it went on screen. If it didn't, we'll laugh about it afterwards. But yeah, we're talking about resin. The whole movement of how are you, Georgia? Hey, and there's Kurt. You coming on camera? No, I didn't think so. Yeah.